Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community. The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It with your host, BJ Williams.
We have a great show for you today, including a talk with Miles Wilson about his collection of poetry, Harm. But first, Susie Beasley is going to talk with Veronica Bernal about a great book in Spanish.
Veronica, what is this book about, Confi en el Mañana?
Well, this book has a lot of information on breast cancer. Many Hispanic women tell the different stories of how they handled and survived breast cancer.
Okay, and kind of give us an idea of the layout of the book and the targeted audience. So this particular one is in Spanish?
Yes, it's in Spanish, and it has a complete step-by-step evaluation of what to expect from the biopsy to the reconstruction of the breast, and it also have questions that you can ask your doctor.
That's the doctor and everything. So someone that may have done a breast exam and they have found the lump, they kind of give them an idea of what they need to do to get a diagnosis, and then it kind of gives them a plan.
A plan of questions that you can ask.
And this particular one, it's not very old. It's a fairly recent book. It
was made in 2002.
2002.
Yeah.
So the book is based on this is a version of the book, Be a Survivor?
Be a Survivor, yes. It's a version of
that. So what ties in with the title, Trust in Tomorrow?
Well, it was in English, it's called Be a Survivor, but this book was made for Hispanic women that say their stories, and they changed the title.
To get the...
It's not exactly the same version.
Right, for the targeted audience.
Yes.
For the targeted audience. But it's basically primarily the same premise,
Yes.
though. Okay, then. So, how do you feel about the book? You feel like that this is something that Hispanic women's...
Yes, I think they should absolutely read this book. It is very interesting.
Very interesting. It's very good. So, do we have other books related to this topic in the system?
Yes, we have a lot of books based on breast cancer, and as well as other related health diseases that are going on, both English and Spanish. We have cassettes, videos, audios, everything a lot of information that we have in the Metropolitan.
And we have coming up, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes, it is.
So there's a lot of campaigns for women to go in for the mammogram, and they're having activities like the Relay for Life,
very helpful,
which is a fundraiser from the Susan G. Komen Foundation here in the city. Another thing that we want to try to target, again, you said the Hispanic ladies coming to the library and getting this information. There are also some brochures and pamphlets, I think, in the vertical file.
We have that also.
And this book checks out for 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Okay, then. Well, Veronica, we really appreciate you coming and sharing with us. Confi en el Mañana, Be a Survivor, Trust in Tomorrow.
Yes.
This is in Spanish. And we do have available in English, available at your local library and perhaps your local bookstore. Thank you, Veronica.
You're welcome.
What is wet and the sun is not sunny?
Hi, my name is Jose Jimenez of your Metropolitan Library Commission. You know, most experts tell us that if you just spend 20 minutes a day reading to your child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're also preparing that child to learn how to read. Check with the experts at your Metropolitan Library for suggestions on just the right books for you and your family. And visit us at our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
With me now is Doug Benton, and Doug, I have a really neat detective story.
You reading a detective story?
Yes.
That's unusual.
Well, every once in a while.
Yeah. What you got?
This is the 5th book in a series by Alexander McCall Smith.
Oh, he's very hot right now.
Very hot right now. He has actually moved on to a detective lady in Edinburgh, but the first 5 are set in Botswana, and they feature Ma Precious Ramotswe, who has the #1 ladies detective agency in Gaborone. And they are delightful books. They're easy to read. Some people have called Ma Ramotsy the Miss Marple of Botswana. I'm not sure about that, but they are very enjoyable. They're actually, in some ways, very realistic. There are a lot of truths and that sort of thing that come out in them. This one is The Full Cupboard of Life, and Ma Ramotsy has been engaged for a couple of years, or at least a couple of books, to a very nice man, Mr. J.L.B. Matakoni, who is a auto mechanic. But she's having a little trouble getting him actually to the altar in between her detecting. She has most of her jobs are these men suitable? If I marry this guy, is he going to turn out all right? But she has been asked to find who murdered somebody and that sort of thing. And she has a book that she follows called The Principles of Detecting. And she's always referring back to it, and it's telling her all this stuff. In fact, it was this book that inspired her to operate the #1 ladies detective agency. But I want to read a little selection here from the book. This is she has been asked to check out a list of men, a very well-to-do lady, also of traditional size in Botswana, has asked Ma Ramotsy to look at these 4 men and find out if they are after her money or if they really want to marry her. And so she's talking with this one, and she said her reservations about Mr. Bobo Logo were growing, but she was not quite sure why this should be so. He was irritating, of course, but so were many people, and being irritating was not enough for him to be written off. No, there was something more than that. Was it smugness or singularity of purpose? Perhaps that was it. It was always disconcerting to meet those who become so obsessed with a single topic that they could not see their concerns in context. Such people were uncomfortable company purely because they lacked normal human balance, and this, she thought, might be the case with Mr. Bobo Logo. And yet she had not been asked to find out whether Mr. Bobo Logo was an interesting man or even a nice man. She had been asked to find out whether he was after Ma Halanga's money. That was a very specific question, and her feelings for Mr. Bobo Logo had nothing to do with the answer to that question, so she would give him the benefit of the doubt and keep her personal opinions to herself. Delightful and enjoyable. We've got all of the books in the system. The Full Cupboard of Life by Alexander McCall Smith. Coming up next, we've got Kids Corner. Heidi Johnson will be telling Kelly Rhea about some books for our very youngest readers.
Hello and welcome. With us today is Heidi Johnson. She's from the Tech Processing Department of the Metropolitan Library System, but she loves children's books.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, thanks for being here, and what did you bring?
Well, it's getting close to Thanksgiving, and we received some new Thanksgiving books, so I decided to bring some of those in. The first one I was going to talk about is called Thanks for Thanksgiving. The first thing that drew my eyes were the beautiful illustrations. They're just such bright, bold colors, and just seem to leap off the page at you.
They're very warm.
Very warm and very detailed, and it's really just beautiful pleasure to just leaf through there. And it reminds us of all the things in our life that we have to be thankful for, from the turkey on the table and good company around us, to the leaves that fall and blow in the wind, to be thankful for school because you like to be smart. Be thankful for the friends you have, and for playground equipment, and for rainy days and a chance to jump into puddles. And it goes on and has beautiful illustrations. And
Doris Barrett is the illustrator, and she has done a beautiful job. It's like a cornucopia almost, in that there's so much abundance on each page.
Exactly, and it's just so filled with detail. It'll really take you a long time to discover everything that's on each page. And it ends up that also the girl that tells the story, she's grateful for her family and for a good night, tuck into bed, hugs and all of these things. So I think that's something all of us have to be thankful for.
So is this maybe a good book before bed then?
It's a good book to read before bed and on Thanksgiving, maybe remind everybody of all the things that we do have to be thankful for.
Oh, how sweet. So this book is called Thanks for Thanksgiving. It's by Julie Marks, Markes, and it's really a wonderful holiday book.
Yes, it is. And also related to these holidays is a book called Pilgrim Cat.
Pilgrim Cat.
Pilgrim Cat.
Ooh, that's a new one.
A cat sneaks onto the Mayflower and becomes an immigrant to this country like everybody else on the Mayflower. And it talks about the long, hard voyage and that they were running out of food. And the cat becomes attached to this little girl. And basically what ends up, they share the journey. And when they arrive in the new country, it talks about the hardships and
Heidi, it
their
sounds
joys,
so good,
and
but
it's beautiful.
We're going to have to talk about it another time. It's called
Okay.
Pilgrim Cat. It's by Carol Antoinette Peacock. We hope that you'll look for these books at your local bookstore or your favorite library.
Okay, Doug, it looks like you have an interesting book here.
It was an interesting book, and it's another detective story. We're doing detectives today. The title of the book is Little Scarlet, and it's the latest book from Walter Mosley, whose detective character is Easy Rollins, Ezekiel. Everybody calls him Easy. He's an African American. The series started right after Easy had come back from the Second World War. He's come back to Los Angeles in a book called Devil in a Blue Dress, which Denzel Washington did a film version of. We're up to 1965 in Little Scarlet and the Watts riots. That's what's going on in the background. Mosley's books tend to have more than just a mystery going on. They really are novels with mystery stuff thrown in there. And people are concerned. The setup in the story is that a white man has been pulled from his car and beaten in Watts. And he runs into a building to get away. And not long after that, a young African-American woman is found murdered in that building. And the police come to Rollins because they know that he does favors for people. He's not an official detective, but he does favors, whether it's work that you don't want to do or whether you need some information about something. He's there. But one of the most interesting chapters of the book is when someone asks Rollins about the riots and about African Americans destroying their own property in Watts and why do they do that. And this is what he says. This is a tough place. You got working men and women all fenced in together, brooding about what they see and what they can't have. Almost every one of them works for a white man. Every child is brought up thinking that only white people make things, rule countries, have history. They all come from the South. They all come from racism so bad that they don't even know what it's like to walk around with your head held up high. They get nervous when the police drive by. They get angry when their children are dragged off in chains. Almost every black man, woman, and child you meet feels that anger, but they never let on, and you've never known it. This riot was saying it out loud for the first time. That's all. Now it's said, and nothing will ever be the same. That's good for us, no matter what we lost. And it could be good for white people too, but they have to understand just what's happening here. So we get some discussion about how African Americans felt in the mid-'60s when civil rights hadn't fully taken hold yet. And I'm sure in many ways still feel today because civil rights still haven't taken hold in a lot of ways. So you get that kind of background. Mosley is African American writer who was born in Los Angeles, so he knows the area and he knows how people felt about things in those days.
Well, does he give a good sense, other than just dealing with the riots, do you get a good feel for the 1960s and the other period pieces?
Not really, because it's very localized. It's all in the Watts area of Los Angeles. We don't get around and see other things. I mean, there are references to the Beatles and other things that are going on in the culture at that time, because what is happening in the book, in this location, is so strong and is so prevalent. And the danger is such that the lid will come off this thing if it's determined that a white man committed this murder. So it's all pretty tight. It's pretty claustrophobic in that way.
But a good read.
A good read and a good mystery story in it all.
Great. Thanks, Doug. Coming up next, we have MJ Van Deventer, Director of Publications at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. She's going to be talking with Jean Hoffman-Smith, a local social worker, about one of her favorite books.
Good morning, Jean.
Good morning, MJ.
So nice to have you here.
I'm delighted to be here.
And you have a book, Not Fade Away, which is in many ways a heart-wrenching story about Peter Barton.
Yes.
Tell us what drew you to the book.
I love the book reviews in the Wall Street Journal, and I think it may be the main reason I take the paper, but they had a book review on this that just went on and on about how helpful it was to read, because anyone who's dealing with death in their own family or their own demise could read it and really benefit from the way that he dealt with his death, which is what the book is all about.
Tell us a little bit about him before he had cancer.
Yes, he was a human dynamo. He called himself an energetic pagan. But he was a religious person, but he had this zest for life that was unbelievable. He did everything from, jumping off buildings with something on and skiing, and he played music. He was in a band, played at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. He did a million different things. He was multi-talented.
And he was quite wealthy and founded cable television and MTV.
Absolutely. He invented cable television, I guess. And many, MTV, the McNeil Report, many different things were his creations. And then he retired at 46.
And then what happened when he got cancer?
Well, he got cancer 2 years later, and he thought he had conquered it. He was very excited about the fact that the treatment worked, the surgery worked, and he thought he had it made. Then it came back, and the doctors told him this is not going to work. And he had about 8 or 9 months left to live, and decided he needed to write the experience, because he realized his father had died when his father was 45 years old, leaving him as a 13-year-old boy.
Oh my goodness.
And he was going to have his 3 children left because he knew he would die. And the difference, he said, between his father's death, which happened suddenly with a heart attack, and his, was that he was going to have time.
Time to plan.
To plan and to get his things in order, and to see that his wife was going to be okay and his children, and to talk to them. And he wanted to leave this book. And he knew he couldn't do it alone because he was fading fast physically. And so he asked Lawrence Shames, S-H-A-M-E-S, Shamus, to co-write it with him. And Mr. Shamus said, I don't think I can do that. I'm not sure I can make that walk.
But they did.
But they did.
And it's a wonderful book. And you also relate it to the Frankel book, Man's Search for Meaning.
Absolutely, because the whole 7 months is spent with his making sure that he understood the meaning of life for himself. And that meaning is what Frankel says in this book, which is that we all have control and the opportunity to choose the attitude that we will take toward our death.
Thank you for sharing this with us today.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Thank you.
It's a good book.
Last spring, I was at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for the Western Heritage Awards, and I was able to talk with several of the winners. Miles Wilson, who is professor of English at Southwestern Texas State University, received the Western Heritage Award for Poetry for his collection called Harm. I think you'll enjoy very much what he had to say about his poems.
Miles, Harm is a collection of poems that you've been working on all your life, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, it's both the first book and really a selected collected. These are probably all the poems that I have written over 20 or 25 years that I'd want to see collected in a book. And of course, many of the early poems have been revised significantly, but it really is both a first book and a life work to this point.
Do you get up every morning and say, I'm going to write a poem? Or is there something that inspires you, that triggers you, and you have to write about it?
I think I work very slowly. Obviously, this is, while I have published a collection of short stories, this is my first book of poetry, and I'm obviously no one is going to put me up for the Yale series of younger poets these days. So I'm not extraordinarily prolific, and I don't feel as though I have to turn out a poem a week to continue to think of myself as a poet and a writer. Images come, words come, circumstances come. They accumulate, sometimes a line here, an image there in a writing notebook. And at a certain point, sometimes those things begin to coalesce. And when they do, a poem may come out of it.
Well, one of them that I wrote down several that I enjoyed, but one of them that I particularly enjoyed, and you said that you would be willing to read it for us, is Getting There.
Certainly, I'd be glad to do that. I even have the page marked.
Wonderful.
Getting There. Although I'm not sure I have ever read a poem of my own before without standing up to read it, but I'll do what I can sitting down. Getting there. Start with this, a bag of earth. You can grow food, cover your tracks, pitch it up to get the drift of the wind. A source of light, for you will be doing much night traveling. Money is luminous and may be otherwise useful. A good hat is handy, sheds sun and water. Wool is best. You may pass for an animal or pull it over your eyes. Attitude is important. Take for your text the strut and belly of circumstance. Remember everything pretends to obey the laws of gravity. Learn the gait of give and give and give and give and get. Keep a change of scruples. If you run low, make do is the first law of the road. Travel light, but not alone. Tracked by the scavengers of stumble, a companion may prove club-footed. The road lives on, the sure thing. You may wish to develop a sense of direction to avoid circling home. Moss grows on the north side of the dead. Inquisitory light rises in the east. Trust distance. Some say, stick to thickets, the legs go first. Others advise high ground, claim the heart. They may be right. Learn to distinguish between salt water and fresh. Both may kill you, but one will. Carry some luck to fall back on in case you ever make a mistake. Don't tell anyone how you came.
There's so much in there that I enjoy and appreciate, but the one thing I wrote down was keep a change of scruples.
Yes. Well, many of us at times either have done that or have wished we could.
Right. The other thing that I appreciated in there was the give and give and give and give and give.
It's always nice to have your lines quoted back to you. Thank you.
Well, I thought that was so expressive of, I think, what a lot of us do feel in life, that we just keep giving and giving and giving. And surely at some point,
You get.
Or
you would hope to. Yes.
Right. One of the things I really like about your poetry is how, in a way, it's very concrete. I mean, when you say something like keep a change of scruples, you can almost see it. And your descriptions of nature, I think, are also something that are, I guess, quintessentially poetic. I'm stumbling a little bit here, but poetry is the kind of thing that is both very small and concrete and wide open. And I think what you write is very much that way, because it does seem to be very concrete, and yet it starts echoing in your mind, and the ripples, I'm mixing my metaphors here, the ripples start spreading out.
Well, you would hope that I think it's important for poetry to have, to be rooted in the world. We live in a physical world, a physical body, that it have an available, tangible surface. I think much contemporary poetry is difficult or unavailable to people that it should be available to, because that surface is not necessarily always there. One would hope that there is more than surface, that what you offer in its particulars, in its luminous particulars, you hope, will illuminate larger things or particulars for others. That's the ambition.
Well, I think you've succeeded very well in that.
Thank you.
I enjoyed sitting down and reading the whole book.
Thank you very much.
Through. We have just a very brief moment. Would you like to speak to any autobiographical aspects of this collection?
Well, there is a term for poets who use aspects of their lives significantly in their poetry. It's sometimes not a term that poets like to sign on for. It's called the confessional school. Poets such as Sylvia Plath, Anne Sexton, Robert Lowell, Berryman Snodgrass, and more recently, say, Sharon Olds. But it's certainly an important strand, I think, of the world of poetry. And I think a perfectly legitimate one. Again, I think the hope is that in offering up not autobiography but selected particulars from your life, you build and make those into a thing that are available for other people. We understand, we live emotionally in particular lives, not in general lives or abstract lives. And I sometimes like to say, when I'm asked about what details are actually literally true to my life, everything in the book is absolutely true except for the parts that I made up.
That's a wonderful note to end on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Morris, Executive Director of your Metropolitan Library System. You know, experts tell us it's never too early to begin reading to a child. If you spend just 20 minutes a day reading to a child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're helping that child to prepare to learn how to read. Visit us at the Metropolitan Library System and let us help you select just the right books for you and your family. And be sure and visit our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
It's Writer's Almanac time, and I'm willing to bet that Doug Benton has a date.
I do have a date. In keeping with our unintended crime motif here today, November 20th, 1900 was the birth date in Pawnee, Oklahoma of Chester Gould, the cartoonist who created, wrote, and drew Dick Tracy for over 3 decades. And Tracy's still going strong. Gould is long dead now. But people who remember the old Dick Tracy strip will remember the expressionistic style of the drawing. Everything was black or white. There were no shades of gray in the crime world of Chester Gould. And of course the villains all looked as ugly on the outside as they did on the inside. What have you got something?
Well, we'll have to wait till next week. We are out of time. We just have enough time to mention you can find out a great deal more about Dick Tracy at www.metrolibrary.org. That and everything about the library. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next time.